Perfect. G'day and welcome back to Well Workplaces podcast. I am Tom Bosner, the host, and I'm here today with Dr. Natalie Flatt to continue on our season 3 podcast, which is all around mental health. Natalie, how you going?
Hi, Tom. Coming from the car today, so I hope everyone can hear me okay. Multitasking at its finest in January.
I love it. So you're in Sydney today, are you?
I am in glorious Sydney, hoping to find my little gold nugget today to work by my side to see what we can achieve in 2022. Exciting times.
I love it. The things you do for recruitment and getting help in this marketplace.
Well, it's all about motivation, isn't it, Tom?
That's it. Great segue into motivation. Today's all about how you reignite motivation while working from home. But I also I think with this topic, it's also around just how do you get the cogs turning as the year starts and kind of get yourself in the zone for a good year ahead. It would be fair to say that for a lot of people, their breaks that they've had over the Christmas and festive season maybe didn't live up to expectation, mine included. So for a lot of people coming into January or late January, they're just sort of maybe just like finding their way now and also fumbling along to kind of go, all right, where do I get started here? So I'm sure today we'll talk about intrinsic motivation and probably cover off on some tips and strategies. And the other factor in this, of course, is that people are working from home. It's most years we start the year where we're going back into the office and we're kind of like, cool, I'll catch up with people, have coffees and kind of socially connect before they, dive into some work. So, how are you feeling about the start of the year, Nat, and kind of just, motivation in general for yourself?
It's been really difficult, to be honest, Tom. Like it has been exactly right. Like we yet again we'll have that element of wishful thinking, but we really thought we had this in the bag, and this variant has really knocked us for six. And we're just seeing I suppose that level of disappointment, disillusionment, very much that kind of what's the point, not bothering to create all these beautiful times with family and friends when it's still we still feel like we're in a little bit of a washing machine. And that can really just create this element, or it adds to that burnout feeling, because we haven't had that rest and recovery that we're really aiming to get, which we really thought this year we were going to have. And now all of a sudden we're kind of going back into the working year, where a lot of people haven't even had any rest at all. I've got some friends and family that were in quarantine or isolation for 3 weeks because it went through the whole family. And they're exhausted before it's already started. So it is really hard, where we won't sugarcoat it. We're going to have to dig deep to really start to make sure that self-care is a daily thing. It's not just it's not a nice to have, it's a necessity to move forward and to have those little breaks along the way, in the day. And this can be really easily achieved in the home environment when we are working from home, and to be really conscious of it. And I think we spoke about it this time last year as well, Tom, but it's really important to then revisit, how do we start our year? Like how are we going to, we always do those New Year's Eve resolutions. We always have that wanting to be able to see if we can detox, to be able to change something, or to be able to shift something. And so we still have that in our control. We still have that autonomy piece. And so we can start doing the basic things again. We can start, checking on our mindset. Are we starting to go, oh, I should get up in the morning and I should do this and I should do that? Let's start to change that again. Is what we're doing necessary, or is it toxic to us? So again, having a bit of a kind of life detox is really good. And then when we do want to do things that are really good for us, what is the mindset around that? How are we going to be able to help ourselves? So that reflection and that mindset is a really important piece on being able to reignite that motivation. Getting dressed. This is an interesting one, because we all became quite, well, we could fumble our way through a few Zoom meetings, couldn't we, at all? But after some time, a lot of people said we just became also pretty exhausted from that. And I think that's a very important piece, because there's a lot about color psychology, Tom, or it's called clothed cognition, for anyone who would like to investigate that a little bit more. But there is different types of clothing that can make us feel certain things. So if we really did want to be able to reignite our exercise, being able to go out and actually, buy brighter clothes, or clothes that, are very gym like, great sales on right now as well. Doing that has shown research is you're then more likely to be, because you feel energetic, you're more likely to do it. So if you really wanted to start, from a work front, to be able to pick up the pieces, maybe what certain colors might ignite, again, that motivation, or that feeling quite good about yourself and professional, or even just to feel really quite calm. So take a bit of a stock take of your wardrobe and see what pieces actually speak to you, literally. So that's that part of clothed cognition that can go a really long way towards that motivation piece. Decluttering again. I think we all did that in 2020, didn't we? We all went and Marie Kondoed everything. I'm pretty sure that everything's all kind of cluttered up again. So it's again that clear space, clear mind attitude. You might, a lot of people were kind of coming in and out of offices even at the end of last year. If many companies have said, let's just ride out the storm, literally and figuratively, you might need to realign that space again. So, just take stock take of that. Again, get that completion bias. We want to be able just to do those small, tiny little tasks that may seem really menial, but it gives us that sense of completion. And then when we have that sense of completion and that accomplishment, we're more likely to feel motivated to go on to the next task. So as easy as we start by making our bed in the morning, or doing a piece of self-care in the morning, that again, we can tick off to say, hey, we've done that for ourselves. So these are all the easy little tips that I know that we've heard before, but consciously we have to bring them back, because this is what is in your control. This is part of the autonomy piece, which also then leads us into intrinsic motivation as one of the main elements.
Yep, great. Oh, that's really cool. I did not know about what was it called? Clothed
cognition. Yeah.
Cognition. That's really interesting.
I'm wearing a really beautiful bright,
Oh, you're back.
beautiful bright like coral and cream today. It makes me feel really summery, and it makes me feel really sprightly. And so because of that, I feel like I've got a little bit more pep in my step. And then because of that, I feel like I can kind of get through the day. So it's whatever makes you feel good. Everyone's different.
I love it. Yeah, and sometimes with when we're in a little bit of a rut, or a starting point of the year, maybe where we've done our New Year's resolutions, or maybe haven't, or can't be bothered. Sometimes we just need to find a little nudge to get us into the behavioural change side of things. And one of the things that I think is important is for motivation is to sort of know that motivation is the result of action, but not the cause of it. So, a lot of the friction for either doing a new activity or doing something that's great for your self-care, a lot of the friction is at the beginning. So it's that feeling of, oh, I booked the gym, should I go? Oh, I can't be bothered. All of that. There's a lot of friction there. But once you get yourself there to the gym, you afterwards you've done it, and then you've got something to be proud of for the day. And that's that kind of that completion bias, I think, was what you mentioned there. So it kind of makes sense. I just think people need that little bit of a nudge, and maybe also reflecting on their values at this time of year and what's important to them. Again, I know we've talked about it a couple of times through the podcast. It's a really great way of going, what's important to me for me this year. On the intrinsic bias front, what's that all about? Intrinsic motivation. What's all that about, Nat?
Yeah, and intrinsic motivation is really what we want to tap into, Tom. Exactly what you said. It's a little bit about, it's on the same lines of knowing your why and having that purpose as to why you do what you do. So, again, coming back to that gym piece, like it's a very easy way and it's a very common one for people to do a New Year's resolution, is that I'm going to go to the gym because I want to lose weight. Okay, that's an outcome. And more often than not, that's probably where a lot of people bite off more than they can chew, because they focus a lot on that outcome. Rather, is that I'm going to go to the gym because this is my time away from the kids. This is time where I can think. This is time that makes me feel good. This is time for me to socialize. And focusing on that will get you, or that kind of purpose for you will get you that end result. But overlooking those areas to focus on the end result can lead into greater amount of failure. I'm not saying it's a causal. There is a higher relationship to not succeed. So that's a very important piece to focus on as well. Is that, why are you doing something? Are you doing something because someone told you to do it? Or are you doing something, that you may not have thought about? Well, what am I actually getting out of this? And this is something, it's part of the reflection piece, because we want to be doing things that get us out of bed in the morning, that give us that drive, that give us that sense of freedom, that control, that provides us elements of mastery as well, but most of all creates that sense of purpose. So that autonomy, that mastery, and that purpose are all very important elements that create that intrinsic motivation, which is doing that activity for that inherent satisfaction rather than for that consequence there.
Yep. Yeah. Beautiful. So like for me, the gym, like I've been getting back into it. I've been going pretty much every day since I've been back from my break. And I'm now at the point where it's automatic that I go, and I know the reason why I'm going. It's because it just makes me feel really good and I'm productive afterwards. When I started though, it was all about, probably losing weight more than anything, right, at that point in time, or probably more the aesthetic side. And now it's actually just about, I actually don't really care I do probably care what I look like, but I'm more around how I feel mentally afterwards. It just makes me a better human. And so every day it's that important to me that it's scheduled in, and it just gets done now. So it's kind of that then into habit creation. On the motivational factors, I've got a little clip photo here or graph that I might just bring up. I'll see if I can get it up on the screen. You might be able to see this, Nat. I'm not sure if you're on your phone there. So this is looking at intrinsic and extrinsic motivational factors. What's the extrinsic side all about? Just to sort of distinguish between the two. What's it mean to you?
Yeah, so the extrinsic, I suppose that extrinsic piece is just to focus on I suppose that external outcome to things. So I'm just looking in here, but so I can see those incentives. We're noticing that and we've seen research time and time again now that people don't actually want money as a reward, or money is only going so far, or getting that pay raise, rather than building a different position description that then maybe challenges that individual or provides that level of curiosity for that person. So it's not so much focus on those tangible outcomes, whether that's it's that more internal need and desire is met there. And then we've got the punishment, where we again it's more that internal, that external consequence there, rather than, again, in contrast, I suppose, that problem solving, because punishment just leads to, well, that's not the right way. Rather, it shuts off that, well, how can we do it a different way, or how can we look at it a different way? And so then that opens up for that curiosity piece as well. Again, which I said before, is the money. People don't actually want so much more the money, or the money goes money is helpful, and it goes to only a certain extent, but it's also about the challenge of a role. Are my needs being met, based on my intellect, based on my personality, based on my own little mini goal settings as well. It's not just about flicking money. And we see a lot of people in those positions where they are just absolutely, showing depressive symptoms. And then you can look at their bank balance or the pay rise, and people go, oh, well, how come, you're not over the moon because you're on that? And it's like, that's not enough. So it's really interesting that, leaders need to take that into piece, not about, flicking money there as well. And then we have, praise. So praise and recognition are very different things, and we can do praise, and a lot of people may not, think that, we'll tell the team, or we'll shout the team, or we'll give them, a voucher because they've reached that KPI or they've completed that project, rather to say, hey, Tom, we're going to bring Tom up here, as part of the little team thing. Tom did this and achieved this, and Tom went out of his way by doing this. As leaders, we're, and as employees, we value so much that recognition of who we are and what we did over the generalized praise that we can, leaders think a right thing, and it's still a great thing to do, but it's not tapping into an employee's or a team member's intrinsic motivation there. And last, we have, the competition compared to belonging. We want people to belong to a project, to be part of a project, to be accountable to a project, to be able to have their voice in a project or in the team, because people then know the overall journey and the overall, I suppose, prize game. We don't want to be competing with others. We don't want to be competing, again, like against the clock all the time, because that can then lead to a decrease in that motivation, because the pressure comes in, that external issue there that can lead to, as we've seen, over the last couple of years, some negative consequences there.
Yeah, that's a really good graphic there and good summary. I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to probably chasing the right column, which is all around incentives, money, maybe praise, or needing a lot of praise and that kind of thing, or maybe needing to be in a competitive environment. But the left's really around, well, what is it that you really want? It's really around, you do want a challenge, you want to feel like you're doing purposeful work, and that's a huge role for leaders or managers or whoever in a team setting, to sort of ignite those feelings of community and belonging. And the way you described recognition versus praise was a really great example. It's probably something that a lot of leaders could listen to, just to sort of clarify it, because there's actually a huge difference. Curiosity as well is a great one, because it's really around keeping on the topic of purposeful work. People need to feel like they can put their own they've got the autonomy to deliver whatever it might be with their own stamp on it. And to stimulate that, or to really engage that side, you need people to feel curious about the work that they do. You get obviously there's a lot of value in having super interested people in your team delivering on purposeful work. It all kind of fits in really nicely. Nat, on the topic of just moving away from intrinsic motivation now, I think that's pretty clear what that one's all about. So there was some tips there on I guess, reigniting your motivation. Do you think like as the year goes on, people start to go back to work maybe in the office over time? Do you think that's going to change the motivation side of employees at the moment, or what do you think?
Oh, without sounding political, I feel that people need people. Like, people need to be able to live off others' energy, and have that level of passion and creativity. Like, there is certainly electricity to connect with individuals. There's in my eyes, there's no argument about that. And more often than not, we're going to be looking at a hybrid workplace. So just making sure, as leaders, that when we do have everyone in the team, or majority of people in the team at that time, that it is intrinsically motivating or intrinsically motivatingly led. Being able to talk about the project, to be transparent, to talk about, this is going to be the potholes, this is going to be the stuff that, it's going to be a little bit boring, but how can we soldier through this? And allowing people that time for questions and that curiosity, and having that challenge. What can people take on? What do people feel like they're taking on right now? Because Tom, we also have to still acknowledge that people are really tired. We're
Yeah,
going through
yeah,
that great Australian slump, as the amazing psychologist from Gartner has been talking about. We are feeling it.
yeah.
So we are going to have to dig deep as employees and really, again, as my favorite word is, be really self-aware, but also as leaders, just be really cognizant that we are, creating that motivation again as that team. So yes, I think there's going to be a lot of power held when we can, get back, into that safer work environment again. But to
Mm,
be mindful that others are not everyone's going to feel like that, to have that level
yeah,
of flexibility. But for when we do have that time to get together, looking at their curiosity and, bringing that into projects and the challenging, also that level of control, again, that recognition, bringing back cooperation, that sense of belongingness as well.
yeah.
And again, bringing back in the fun and the fantasy. That's
Mm,
something that was novel at the start. We worked it out, and it's just now plateaued.
yeah, yeah,
Everyone's tired of the Zooms. Everyone wants a little bit more, of that classical conditioning effect, where we're getting on trains or, commuting a little bit differently every day, seeing different things. That's going to ignite that creativity again.
yeah, yeah. That's really good summary. I think, yeah, there's no important, this is the most important time for leaders to get people together, if that is online at the moment, or most likely is. Finding a way to collaborate. We just came off our quarterly review just now with our team, and we used Mural, which is a platform that's pretty much like a virtual whiteboard room, but with the video on. It was a really great tool just to get everyone thinking. And there's a check-in at the start. How are you feeling? And then there's a check-out. So it's kind of allows for a moment to clarify how everyone's feeling. And the majority of people weren't feeling, overly motivated to begin the year because it was all transparent, etc. And then you check in on the way out to see how do we all feel now that we've clarified our quarterly plan, what we're doing, and we've rehashed on what's important to us. So there are things out there that can help bring the collaboration and the community feel together, but the big missing link perhaps is the emotional intelligence of the leader to be able to bring people together, because not everyone's built that way. Nat, thanks so much for your time. I know you're a busy person. You're about to run out of your car. Hopefully not too hot in your car. But yeah, thanks so much for your time. And we will catch up next week and continue our discussion on mental health in the workplace.
Yeah, and I promise I'll be in the office at that time.
Oh, good. I love it. See you later. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.